My relation came into this country back in the 1860s. And they left, or the biggest share of them, the Buick boys left after the fire at Silver Lake that burned up so many people, because most of their families were burnt in that fire. And so they left, but my great-great-grandfather stayed. And so, but their stories, I mean, they started one of the first freight lines out across this country and drilled some of the first wells to get to Shaniko and that. Chrisman Hotel, I think it was a Chrisman, and somebody stood up on a bench and knocked the gasoline light off, and everybody panicked, and the door opened in, so they pressed up against it, and the ones that did get out, there were so many on the steps that the steps collapsed, and my great-grandmother threw my grandfather out the window into a wagon and jumped out after him, is how they got out. My grandfather was, I don't remember, 18 months old or something like that at the time. Dropped him out, threw him out, whatever you want to say.
Did she get out or she burned?
Huh?
Did she get out?
She got out, yeah, my great-grandmother, my grandfather. The big water for irrigation. My great-grandmother says when they came into this country, the grass was so tall, they came from Burns across to Valley Falls. And the grass out through that country was so tall they had to stand on their saddle horses when they got away from the wagon train to be able to find it. But over the years, there's been numerous springs across this country that have dried up. And crossed over there supposedly was a spring that had blind fish in it. And they were in this spring.
Okay.
And you suppose, I don't know, this is supposedly documented. I've heard about it, I've never seen it. But anyhow, someplace across that valley over there. And some of those ranches out there coming across to Valley Falls at one time had a spring. And around here, the last spring that I know of was out towards Lost Forest, Mound Springs. There was Sand Springs and Mound Springs that weren't too far apart, and I don't know which one was which. But when I first went to work for Viewpoint, we watered cows at what we called Mound Springs. But all the deep water, back in '65, when they made the movie out in the sand dunes out there, they drilled a well, got artesian water, and plugged it, and the sand is blowing over the top of it. I don't know whether you can find it now or not, but all the big water here, or irrigation water, is from deep wells. I was one of the 5 guys that went to the state and demanded a moratorium, so I wasn't very popular for a while. But we didn't, and all the research that we did, there's no place in the world that they don't start developing this water, that the water table goes down, and the water table has dropped here significantly since 1980. People wanted cheap land, and so they came and yeah, it was sagebrush, but it was cheap, and they showed them a picture of what it could be, and that, and like I say, Silver Lake was green, and the one of the years that it started, Silver Lake filled back up again too. So that was an attraction for people, and but they'd come to Viewpoint out there and want to know where their land was, and if we had the legal description, why, we could look at the map and kind of guide them to where they were. And one morning I was going to Stauffer, and a couple showed up with their family and wanted to know if I could help them find their land. And they gave me the legal, and it was out by Lost Forest, and there's a little dry payola back, or lake, just this side on the road going to Lost Forest out there, or was at the time anyhow. And so I said, yeah, I can show you where you are. And all the way out there, I talked to myself about, what they're going to say when I drive up and stop. And I stopped, and the dust finally settled, and they showed up and got out of the car. And I said, you're standing right in the middle of your property. And the lady looked around. She said, oh my dear, isn't this nice? We don't even have to clear it. And I thought to myself, lady, in the spring you can't even get out of here and walk on it, It's just soupy, slick mud. Stories about gold,
Oh yeah.
out of Lost Forest and that area. My grandfather, if you said gold to him, you wanted to watch out, he'd run over the top of you. There was a sheep herder that always used to show up in Silver Lake, and he always had gold. And the story is that everybody tried to track him back, and he probably came from Baker County someplace, but who knows. But he always had gold, and they could track him out into the country, Lost Forest and Big Benjamin, in that country, and you always lose them. But well, I can't remember the names anyhow, but there was this wagon train that started over off of the Snake River, and they had a wagon master that supposedly knew the shortcut to the Willamette Valley, and this all went gunny bag. And someplace in this country out here, you can probably dig up stuff on the internet better than what I can tell it. But they camped, and the kids were out digging in this dry creek bed, and came in with this blue bucket full of nuggets. But nobody's ever been able to find it since, and yeah. Well, no, they can't trace the wagon train. I mean, the route where they zigged and zagged and stuff.